The wind howled through the barren fields, kicking up dust that stung Emily Carter's face as she stood frozen, her wrists burning against the rough rope binding her to the old oak tree. Her heart pounded, not from fear, but from the humiliation that seared her soul. The laughter of the three boys echoed in her ears. Jake, the ringleader with his cruel smirk, Tommy, who followed Jake like a shadow, and Caleb, who hesitated but tied the knots anyway. They'd called her Mule Girl, mocked her faded overalls, her quiet voice, her life on the struggling Kansas farm. "Nobody's coming for you," Jake had sneered, tossing her phone into the dirt before they vanished into the dusk. Emily's eyes stung, but she refused to cry. She was 28, a woman who'd endured loss and hardship, yet here she was, tied up like some forgotten animal. Little did they know, one call she'd managed to make before they took her phone was about to change everything. Hey, if you're gripped by this story already, hit that subscribe button. It means the world to our channel, and you won't miss what happens next. Emily's life hadn't always been this way. Growing up on the Carter farm, she'd been the girl with dreams bigger than the endless wheat fields. Her parents, salt-of-the-earth folks, taught her resilience, but the farm was a losing battle. Droughts, debts, and a town that seemed to shrink every year. At 18, she'd fallen in love with Daniel, a quiet boy with intense green eyes who'd enlisted in the army right after high school. He'd promised to come back for her, and he did, but not as the boy she'd known. Years in Delta Force had hardened him, sculpted him into a man of steel and secrets. They married in a small courthouse ceremony, and though Daniel was often gone on missions, their love was an anchor. Emily stayed on the farm, tending to her aging parents, while Daniel's world was one of covertops and classified files. She never asked about his work he never shared, but she knew one thing: Daniel was a man who'd walk through fire for her. That afternoon, Emily had been walking home from the feed store, her boots crunching on the gravel road, when Jake's pickup truck screeched to a halt beside her. The boys, all in their early 20s, were locals who'd never left town, their lives a cycle of dead-end jobs and bar fights. Jake had a grudge against Emily years ago. She'd turned him down at a school dance, and he'd never forgiven her for it. "Think you're too good for us, farm girl?" he'd spat, his breath sour with cheap beer. Before she could react, they dragged her to the oak tree on the edge of town, a place kids called the Hangout. They tied her up, laughing, thinking it was a prank. But to Emily, it was a violation, a reminder of every time life had tried to break her. As they walked away, she'd managed to slip her phone from her pocket and hit speed dial a one number. "Daniels," she whispered, "I'm in trouble," before Jake snatched the phone and smashed it. Now, alone in the fading light, Emily's mind raced. She didn't know if Daniel had heard her message. He was supposed to be overseas, somewhere classified, unreachable, but she clung to the hope that he'd gotten her call. The ropes cut into her skin, and the cold seeped into her bones. She thought of her parents, who'd passed last year, and how they'd raised her to be tough. She thought of Daniel, the way his eyes softened only for her. Hours passed, and the stars began to pierce the sky. Her hope started to waver when she heard a low rumble, like distant thunder. Headlights cut through the darkness, and a black SUV screeched to a stop. The door flew open, and there he was, Daniel Carter, her husband, stepping out like a storm made flesh. Daniel's presence was a force. 6'2", broad-shouldered, his face a mask of controlled fury. He wasn't in uniform, just a black jacket and jeans, but the way he moved screamed training, a precise, lethal. He scanned the scene, his eyes locking onto Emily. In 3 strides, he was at her side, his knife slicing through the ropes with a single motion. He said, his voice low, steady, but laced with something dangerous. She collapsed into his arms, her legs weak, but he held her up. "Who did this?" he asked, his tone promising retribution. Emily whispered their names, her voice shaking but resolute. Daniel's jaw tightened, and she saw the shift in his eyes of the soldier taking over. He helped her into the SUV, his touch gentle but his mind already elsewhere. "Stay here," he said, and she knew better than to argue. Daniel didn't need to ask where to find Jake and his crew. In a small town like theirs, everyone knew everyone's habits. The boys were at Rusty's bar, the only place open past 9. Daniel walked in, and the room went quiet. The jukebox kept playing some old country tune, but the air felt charged, like the moment before a lightning strike. Jake was at the pool table, a beer in hand, laughing with Tommy and Caleb. He didn't see Daniel until it was too late. Daniel grabbed Jake by the collar and slammed him against the wall, the impact rattling the neon signs. "You touched my wife," Daniel said, his voice a low growl that made the bar's patrons freeze. Jake tried to laugh it off, but his bravado crumbled under Daniel's stare. Tommy and Caleb stepped back, their faces pale. The bartender, an old friend of Emily's dad, didn't intervene. He knew better. Daniel didn't throw a punch. He didn't need to. His presence was enough to make Jake stammer an apology. But Daniel wasn't here for apologies. He leaned in close, his voice barely audible. "You're going to fix this, or I'll make sure you regret it for the rest of your life." The threat wasn't loud, but it was absolute. Daniel dragged Jake outside, Tommy and Caleb trailing like scolded dogs. He made them get in their truck and follow him back to the oak tree. There, under the same stars where they'd left Emily, Daniel handed them shovels from his SUV. "Dig," he said. The boys, confused but terrified, started digging a shallow trench. Emily watched from the SUV, her heart pounding. She knew Daniel wouldn't cross certain lines, but the boys didn't. For an hour, they dug, sweat mixing with fear, until Daniel told them to stop. "This is where you'd end up if I wasn't a better man than you," he said, his voice cold. "Now apologize to her." Jake, trembling, turned to Emily, who'd stepped out of the SUV. "I'm sorry," he mumbled, his eyes on the ground. Tommy and Caleb echoed him, their voices shaky. Emily looked at them, her anger tempered by exhaustion. "You don't know what it's like to feel powerless," she said, her voice steady now. "But you will if you ever come near me again." Daniel nodded, satisfied, and told the boys to leave. They scrambled into their truck and sped off, the dust cloud lingering like a ghost. Daniel turned to Emily, his face softening. "You okay?" he asked. She nodded, tears finally spilling over, not from fear but from the weight of being seen, protected, loved. The next day, word spread through town. Jake, Tommy, and Caleb kept their heads down, their reputations shattered. Emily, though, felt something shift inside her. She'd always been the quiet farm girl, the one who endured. But now, she felt a spark of something new. A strength, not just from Daniel's rescue, but from standing up to her tormentors. Daniel stayed for a week, helping her fix up the farm, but he had to leave again for another mission. Before he left, he pressed a new phone into her hand. "Call me, anytime, anywhere," he said. She smiled, knowing he meant it. As his SUV disappeared down the road, Emily stood on the porch, the Kansas wind at her back, feeling like she could face anything. The town never forgot that night. The oak tree became a quiet legend, a reminder that even the smallest places hold big stories. Emily kept farming, her hands calloused but her heart full. She wasn't just the quiet farm girl anymore. She was a woman who'd faced cruelty and come out stronger, with a husband who'd moved mountains for her. And somewhere, in a classified corner of the world, Daniel carried her with him, her voice the one thing that kept him grounded. So, that's the story of Emily and Daniel Cartera, a tale of love, revenge, and redemption in the heart of Kansas. I want to hear from you. From which part of the country are you watching this video? Drop it in the comments below, and let's keep the story alive.